My name is Lei Mei. I live in Beijing, China. For many years, I dreamed about visiting the United States alone. I wanted to see big cities like New York and Los Angeles. I wanted to learn about different people and their cultures. I felt excited, but also very nervous. This was my first trip without my family or friends. I saved money for many months and planned carefully. I packed my suitcase with clothes for different weather, my camera, and small gifts for new friends. Before I left, I told my parents about my plans. They were proud but also worried. They told me to be careful and to call them often. I promised I would. On the day of my flight, I said goodbye to my parents at the airport. I felt a mix of excitement and fear. The plane ride was long, more than 12 hours. I watched movies and tried to sleep, but my heart beat fast. When the plane finally landed, I was tired but happy to be in America. I made my way to the city center in a taxi. New York was huge and loud. Tall buildings touched the sky. The streets were full of people, cars, and bright lights. I felt small and a little lost, but I was curious and brave. I checked into a small hotel near Times Square. That night, I looked out the window at the city's glowing lights. I knew this trip would change me forever. The next morning, I woke up early and stepped outside. The air smelled different and the city was already busy. I walked on crowded streets and saw people from many countries. I felt nervous but excited. I was ready to explore America on my own. I spent my first few days visiting famous places in New York City. I went to Central Park, where I saw many people walking and relaxing. The trees were green and the birds were singing. I took many photos and felt peaceful. Then I visited the Statue of Liberty. I took a ferry across the water and stood close to the statue. It was much bigger than I thought. I also visited the Empire State Building. I took an elevator to the top and saw the whole city below me. The view was amazing. I saw tall buildings, rivers, and parks everywhere. I felt proud to be here. I was learning and growing with every new experience. I tried American food for the first time. I ate a big hamburger with fries and drank sweet soda. It was different from Chinese food, but tasty. I also visited a busy market with fresh fruits, vegetables, and crafts. People smiled at me and sometimes helped me find my way. I felt welcome and safe in this huge city. At night, I sat in my hotel room and wrote in my diary. I described everything I saw and how I felt. Traveling alone was not easy, but I was proud. I thought about all the adventures waiting for me in America. This trip was just the beginning of a new journey in my life. After a few days in New York, I took a train to Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. The city was smaller and quieter, but full of history. I visited the White House, where the president lives. I took many photos and dreamed about the important decisions made there. I walked on the National Mall and saw many monuments and museums. I visited the Lincoln Memorial and stood in front of the giant statue of Abraham Lincoln. I thought about his courage and leadership. The history I learned made me feel connected to this country. One evening, I walked around the monuments by moonlight. The Washington Monument and the reflecting pool looked magical under the stars. I felt calm and thoughtful. I thought about the people who built this country and the many stories behind each monument. At dinner, I met other travelers from different countries. We shared stories about our homes and dreams. I felt happy to meet new friends far from China. Traveling alone taught me to be brave and kind. Next, I flew to Chicago, a city by Lake Michigan. The lake was very big, like an ocean. I walked on the shore and watched the waves. The water was cold, but the view was beautiful. I took many photos and felt peaceful near the water. Chicago was a busy city with tall buildings and friendly people. I visited Navy Pier, where there were shops, restaurants, and a Ferris wheel. I tried Chicago's famous deep dish pizza. It was thick and cheesy, very different from pizza in China, but I liked it. I met a local woman named Emily who told me about the city's history and jazz music. I visited a music museum and listened to jazz songs. I learned how important music was to Chicago's culture. At night, I looked out from my hotel window and saw the city lights sparkling like stars. I felt proud of my journey so far. I thought about the places I still wanted to visit and the adventures ahead. After Chicago, I flew to Los Angeles. The city was warm, sunny, and full of life. I felt excited but nervous because the city was very big. One day, at a cafe, I met Maya, a traveler from Australia. She was also alone, and we became friends quickly. Maya showed me famous places like Hollywood, the Walk of Fame, and Venice Beach. We took many photos and laughed a lot. I tried surfing for the first time. It was hard to stay on the board, but I had fun. Maya taught me to be brave and enjoy life. We talked about our dreams and families. I felt happy to share this journey with a friend. Traveling alone could feel lonely sometimes, but with Maya, I felt supported. I learned that friendship could be found anywhere in the world. Maya and I took a trip to Yosemite National Park. The mountains were tall and covered with trees. Waterfalls flowed down the cliffs with loud sounds. I felt very small in this huge, beautiful place. We hiked many trails, saw deer and birds, and took many pictures. The air was fresh and clean. Being in nature helped me feel calm and happy. I loved the quiet and the beauty around me. At night, we camped under the stars. We talked about our journeys and future plans. I felt grateful for this adventure and for meeting Maya. Yosemite taught me patience, strength, and the joy of nature. After Yosemite, I returned to New York for my last days in America. I visited museums, theaters, and parks. I enjoyed the city's art, music, and energy. I bought gifts for my family and friends in China. I felt a little sad to say goodbye. This trip changed me. I was braver, more confident, and more open to the world. I thought about all the people I met and the places I saw. On my last night, I wrote in my diary and looked out the window at the city lights. I felt thankful and happy. I knew this was not the end, but the beginning of many journeys. The day came to fly back to Beijing. I packed my bags carefully and said goodbye to the hotel staff and new friends. At the airport, I felt both sad and happy. On the plane, I looked out the window and thought about my trip. Traveling alone was not always easy, but it was very rewarding. I was proud of myself. When I arrived home, my family hugged me warmly. I told them stories and showed photos. I felt grateful for their love and support. I knew I would travel again and see more of the world. This trip taught me many things. I learned to be independent and brave. I learned how to solve problems alone. I met kind people who helped me. I also learned to appreciate different cultures and ways of life. America was big and full of surprises. Every city had its own story. Now I feel more confident and ready for new challenges. Traveling alone showed me that the world is not scary. It is full of friends and adventures. After this trip, I began dreaming about new adventures. There are many countries I want to visit. I want to meet new people and try new foods. I plan to save money and improve my English. I want to be a traveler who shares stories and inspires others. My name is Lei Mei. I am proud to be a solo traveler. The world is big and I am ready to explore it.